So a lot of events are coming in. You're gonna have to slow it down. You don't need all of them. So what do? Well, we're gonna use throttle and we're gonna use combine. And this builds off the previous episode. This is the dev method. If you guys would like to see that previous episode, go ahead and click in the link in the description if you want to look at it. Just a primer on some combined stuff. So let's take a look at it from the beginning. First things first, we need some playground support because we're using playground. And then somewhere toward the bottom, we do playground page.current and then needs indefinite execution. Set that to true. Otherwise, things will just stop after a while. Now we need combine, okay? So we'll need those couple of things, not much. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at making a timer. So I do here, and then we actually use a schedule timer. So that's how we're gonna make this work. So I'll separate this on multiple lines so you guys can see. And the time interval here goes by seconds, so we're just gonna use 2 seconds to start. We're definitely gonna have it repeating as true. And then this part here, we don't need the actual timer passed in, but we are going to just start with a simple print statement so you guys can see how this works. We're gonna say processed, and then we'll give it the value I, and we'll increment I by 1. So that's this I is an integer, which is the starting value of 0. So that's the idea. So let's just run this and let's just watch it work. So there it is. So every 2 seconds. Just to give you an idea, let me put the date in here too, just so you can see what that looks like. Here it goes. So there it is, 49, and then 51, 53. So every other second, it's going ahead and processing this information. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at this with combine. Now, combine is gonna tell us that we don't necessarily have like a timer that we schedule or whatnot. We have a couple operations that we could do, time-based operations. So one of them that we're gonna use is called throttle. Throttle basically means you could send as many events or many values through or publish them, as many as you feel that the program needs at any given point in time. And throttle just says, every time we hit this time limit, I'm gonna give you either the latest value or the value that we currently have. So let's take a look at that and what that means. So first, I just need a subject, so I'll get that out real quick. We'll use a pass-through subject, and there's no error, so we set that to never. So subject, done, out of the way. So now we need a subscriber, and that's gonna be the subject. And let's just first start out with like repeating the print statement that we had before. So we'll just do a sync, and we'll get the value, there we go. And we'll just print that out. So we'll say processed value, like so. Let me put this on its own separate line because we're gonna be adding more operators after this point. So with that, in order to pass this subject into like the combine stream, we actually need to take the subject and send an input. So in this case, the input is of type integer. So we send that through. So after every 2 seconds, we're gonna be sending something in. So we should see something very similar to like what we have printed out in the console from before. So let's go ahead and try that. So down below it says process 0, 1, 2, so just every single time, right? So the next part here is we need to stop it. So let's just say we only want to accept a value every 4 seconds. We don't want to print it out every 2. So we would do a throttle for that. So there's a couple different things we need to look at for throttle. We're going to use the throttle that is probably the easiest to understand. So that's just a throttle in seconds. So we'll say every 4 seconds, and then we'll let the next value come through. The scheduler right now, we're just going to set this to runLoop.main. Let's not get too much into that and what that means. But now we have the bool, which is the latest. We want the latest value. I say in this case, true. That's fine. So with that, we have the throttle. Let me separate this on multiple lines so you can see it one by one. Okay. There we go. So throttle for 4 seconds on the main run loop, and we're going to go ahead and say true. So that means everything after this point runs on the main run loop. So let's go ahead and give that a go, see what happens. Now the part here that you might be thinking is, how do I know if it's actually working? So let me introduce you to some of these debugging helpers. So right now we just have a sync added in, but you can imagine every time you want to just like debug and see what the value is, you don't want to like add a sync to it, because we could just add a sync after this. But what we'll do instead is we just want the value itself printed out. So this is where like having a value and you want to debug how it got transformed or what it looked like at a given point in time. So that's what I'm going to use here with print. So print is going to print every single value that comes through, not just the ones that are printing out every 4 seconds. So see here, we're not incrementing by 1 anymore, we're incrementing by 2. So let's just try this out now. Go ahead and play it. All right, so there it is, value 0, then it got the 1, but now it's got 2, and it's going to give the latest, so therefore we got the latest. Now let's just change this to false and just see if there's a difference in that, so you can learn a little bit about the latest parameter. Are you going to get the latest? So here it is. So process 0, now it's got 1, and then see 2 came, but then also 1 came. So we didn't get the latest, we just got whatever it had last. So we didn't get the latest. So that's the idea. Very simple. So in this case, I'm always looking forward. I want the latest value. I don't want the older value. I don't care about that older value. I want the latest. So that's the throttling that I'm going to have there. Let's go ahead and run that with it. So just to get an idea here, we have print, but then we have this like processed thing here. So I'm just going to do another print, and that will give us the value as well. So we should have every other on this one here too. What emoji should I use? This will be our sync. Yeah. Okay. So run that. We'll get the same thing as before, but now we have the robot showing every single value, and then the throttle, not every single value. So this is, even split of, 2 and 4. So we get every other number that's ascending. I'm going to change this to 1. Okay. So every time 1 second passes by, we increment the integer, but we're only going to take something every 4 seconds. Well, let's just change this to milliseconds. And so there's 1,000 milliseconds for every second. So let's change this to something that's a little uneven. Let's just say like 100 or 1,200 milliseconds. So it's like 1.2 seconds. Let's just see like what this output could generate for us. All right, so one thing I sometimes forget here is that the reason why print wasn't working is that it wasn't actually like accepting the new values. It wasn't starting that stream. So just gonna put the sync thing in here. Sync, processed, and then we'll give it the value. Okay, that is starting that subscription for us. So now let's play this back. There it is. Okay, so yeah, there it is. But see how it's not like at a constant rhythm? So let's just watch it for a little bit. So see, we received 2 values, but then it processed the latest. So I'm trying to show you, like, this is a scheduled event that's occurring exactly the same moment of time. But as you can see, like sometimes random events will come in and then you get like the next thing. So let's see, that happened right around 5 and 6. So let's just say if I is not 5 or I is not 6. I'm just trying to mess a little bit with like when the events are coming in, so we can see like when it's going to process the next value. So you just get like a little idea of what the timing might actually be. So let's go ahead and play that. Then we'll move it up here. So it's kind of like a pause in the events being sent. So there's, okay, so receive 5 and 6. Oh, I should probably do this. How about I not equal to 5? And then same thing for 6. Okay, that should skip it. That's like more or less what I actually want. Okay. All right, so let's play it back. Shouldn't send 5 or 6. That's what I'm going for. 4, no 5. See, there's longer pause, and then it's going to play 7, and 7's going to come back like right away. Oh, it didn't. Oh, I see why. It just completely stopped. I'll just increment it ahead of time. And then we'll just start with -1. Okay, let's try this now. I just want to show you this example so that you guys can understand what's happening. So like 5 and 6 shouldn't get sent, but then 7 should. There it is, 7. So 7 came in, and then it also processed it right away, because that time window, that 1.2 seconds had already passed. So whatever comes in next, it's going to just let it through. But then there's in the background this like timeout that is set, like a timer saying, okay, we can't send the next value until 1.2 seconds has passed since that last value passed the throttle. So that's the idea with throttle. So this could be very helpful, back-end code and front-end code. There's a lot of examples online, and I think one of the examples they put on the Combine website, and you probably see this also in a lot of different articles online, is users typing in a text search, because the text grows as you type from left to right. And you don't want to send everything over all the time and update the search with every single letter. So this throttle is really helpful for that. So that's like a UI example. But another example might be, you get a lot of events and you need to process every single event on the back end, but your back end actually processes, and maybe kicks off a bunch of lambdas or something that like cost money, and you don't need absolutely every single event. But you do need to process at least some of it and some of the time. So maybe you don't process it every time, but process it after so many seconds. You can imagine if there's events coming in and it's just like saving stuff to the database all the time and the data is constantly changing, you don't necessarily need the data that was within less than a second. Maybe it's okay to have it 1.2 seconds, every 1.2 seconds, then process the save. Otherwise, skip other ones. Because the other thing here too is that if something comes up before the timeout and we are taking the latest as true, let's say we get to that point and it already was sent, well, it'll just go ahead and continue with that process. Like that throttle will then say like, okay, well, we've reached the timeout. What was the last value? We haven't sent it yet. Let's just go ahead and send it now. So you at least get the latest value all the time. So thanks for taking a look at this video. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this with Combined, then just say exactly what it is you want to see. I'd be happy to show you some more stuff. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.